Hey everybody, my name's Jason Ward, Sales Director at Involve here in the UK. It's a pleasure to be here on the AV Smackdown with Chris Neto and Mark Coxon. I want to kick off today and talk to you, Mark, who's not with us in the room, but great to see you, my friend. Talk to you, Mark, about strategic growth, and more importantly, something that's playing on my mind, strategic growth by acquisition or strategic growth by newfound portfolio.
Yeah, it's, growth is something we've definitely seen. And I think, over the last few years, when we see ISE or Infocom coming up, we know that one of those press releases is going to be somebody bought somebody. I think we've set that trend over the last couple of years, and whether that's a manufacturer who's picked up another manufacturer, whether that's an integrator who has picked up another integrator, or perhaps even a company that does a subset or another technology in AV. We've seen that a lot, and it's a very interesting time in AV. The joke is there'll be like 3 companies in 2 years, right? I mean, that's like, if it keeps going the way it's going and we keep absorbing each other, one fish just keeps eating the other. But I think 2 things are at play. If you're an integrator, you're trying to increase footprint. And whether that footprint is more geography, or whether that footprint are, different verticals to play in. We see integrators buy IT services companies, or we see, we saw a huge hospitality management company buy an AV consultant, right? So we're seeing these type of things where people want to, I guess, broaden the amount of services that they offer to their clients. And so they're doing those mergers and acquisitions in that respect. And then on the manufacturer side, people are trying to create ecosystems. Manufacturers want loyalty, and the way to get loyalty is that, if you make 80% of the products that can go into a job, you have a better chance of increasing your footprint with your already loyal customers. So I have 20 customers that are buying one thing from me. Why? And I do that well. Why wouldn't they buy 5, 6, 7 things from me if I can pick those up? So we've seen them we've seen some decide to add product lines. We've seen others decide to buy people. So I think we've seen that quite a bit over the last couple of years. And which strategy works better, I'm not quite sure. I think there are problems and pluses and minuses to both. So
okay, you heard from Captain America. All right, I'm a guest in your country, man. It's my first time here. I'm in the land of the Beatles and Eric Clapton and British steel.
Ozzy Osbourne.
And Ozzy Osbourne, more importantly. So my question, I love that you threw the question at us, but I need to know more about what's going on here, because we're, obviously we both live on the other side of the pond. We work for a European company. Tell me about how Involve deals with growth, because you guys have been around for a bit. I've been following you online.
Thank you.
This guy's a rock star in the AV Twitterverse. So what I'd like to know is, how has Evolve handled that as a company? I mean, you guys have been doing this for a bit.
So far, growth has been achieved by organic growth of new portfolio. New portfolio very much focused on user experience. We talked yesterday about interpretation. We're delivering a video-based interpretation service, clinical health services over video. So bringing AV skills to the benefit of the user, not to the benefit of the organization. We're very sort of focused on that because we're much smaller than the big SIs and all the rest of it, so we have to play a different game. Since joining PSNI, we've had a more active interest in what goes on in the United States, and your growth and mergers and acquisitions journey is entirely different to ours.
I love how you just put that line in the sand. Me versus you. Let's go.
It's not a verse, is it? It's a.
It's a different mindset.
PSNI's been brilliant for us to observe what goes on outside of our own country.
Yes.
We all get too consumed by what goes on. We're a small little island. Mm-hmm. You can fit 3 of us in Texas. We're a small little island, but we got too consumed about what goes on in the UK to have friends and partners and colleagues that work in the Middle East and in Central Europe and in the United States and bounce ideas off them. It's given me a whole new perspective and energy as well.
Yeah.
A whole new energy as to what's going on with how to grow our business and how to treat our customers and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
It's been brilliant since joining that PSNI thing just over a year ago.
Yeah, PSNI brings a different perspective to how companies interact, because it makes you guys more social and more interactive, in the sense that, yes, you brought up an excellent point. You are on an island, essentially, the size of smaller than Texas. That fits inside Texas. And the amount of, for example, integrators, consultants that I have, for example, in the Northeast United States, or even in just the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that cluster, it's very, territorial, and everybody's in the same space. You guys are doing something unique. Your verticals are very interesting, because you position yourself as an integration firm. You are an integrator at the core, but you're not a hang and bang guy. You're not, and what we refer to that is a hang and bang is a projector, screen, cable on the table.
Yeah, and
beyond
equipment revenues are in decline.
Wow.
Because service revenues are on the up. So that's the way business is dealt with us. So posing a question back at you, coming back to that acquisition thing, would you acquire another capability or just more of the same?
Well, it depends on, if I'm the integrator, where the plan is. I think a lot of these companies that are doing these integrations are buying smaller integrators due to footprint, right? They all want to expand to different parts of the country in the United States. I love the idea of, I'm not good at
rental and staging
medical,
or something like that.
At a rental and staging, going out and acquiring a rental and staging firm. I don't think you can go wrong with either, but the idea of bringing in and acquiring a new vertical is very interesting, especially if you can merge it with, obviously, company culture and the direction of the company work together. Yeah. The one thing that both me and Mark will probably, will definitely agree, is if you bring in another vertical and the two can't merge or can't talk to each other, using the resources, your engineering resources, right, should be able to talk to live events and staging and say, hey, you need to double check this, the lumens on this projector, right? I think the synergy, once you start doing those acquisitions, looking at the internal resources of a company, makes it, a very, very interesting, it's a very interesting business plan. If you can go and, Mark, you can go ahead and add to this, because I'm going to start stumbling over myself.
No, that's okay. I've worked for a couple companies that have been through things like that, been through those growth curves. I think you're right. I mean, if you want to jump the curve quickly, acquisition is a way to do that. So, if you, like JP said, if you don't do live events, maybe you grab a live events company. The danger to that is just like what you said. The danger to that is the culture and the fit, and can we communicate, and how do those things go together, and are we going to be able to deliver a cohesive experience across those verticals to each customer, or are we going to feel like three different companies? And that's the hardest part. Organic growth would mean you go find those people that know that you bring them into your system, and you can still go out and get people with the right experience, as opposed to just buying a new company with its own product and resources and processes. And instead of inheriting all those processes, you go find the people, bring them in, and build that division, right? That gives you best of breed. It costs you a little time, but I think what you have to do is you have to look and say, what's the gap in the market? Do I just want to be another guy, one of 5 guys bidding on the same jobs with live events? Do I just want to bring that in order to increase revenue and cash flow? Or do I see that there is a unique need in that market, that those 5 or 6 people that are doing it aren't doing well or aren't doing it all? And in that case, organic growth may be the only way. Because when you bring somebody in who's been doing it for 30 years, and we talk about this all the time, I've been doing it this way for 30 years is the most dangerous phrase that we have today in AV, as technology changes quickly. So you bring somebody in with history, and then you try to tell them to do something differently, they're going to go, wait, you bought us. You can't tell us what to do. This is the way we've been doing it for 30 years. Sit back and watch, right?
And that's that business culture thing that you guys have already covered, so we won't go there. But the whole business culture thing, we're all too aware of that, because we've experienced bad times, and currently we're experiencing the good times of the culture. But yeah, as we said, we won't go there.
That's okay. It's okay if you want to go there. We got our bags packed. We're ready to go. Let's go. Come on.
You guys have already covered that one, and yeah, get it wrong at your peril, and acquire someone, and you can break it all over again.
Yeah. It's what I find very interesting now is, every for an integrator, it was always you were acquiring and moving and bringing in parts of that were technology based, right? Equipment based, rental and staging. Maybe you wanted a footprint for installs here, but it was all based around the box.
Yeah.
Moving forward, companies are buying software development,
Yeah.
And going into app spaces, and it's all very mysterious to a company that who has traditionally, or maybe started as a 35 millimeter slide projector sales group to schools.
Yeah.
Now they're doing corporate. Now they're considering the next step into managed services and soft solutions. It's not something that you physically put on a you put in a moving truck and bring to your shop and say, hey, we got it.
So that's a great point you make there. Who, Mark, in your opinion, Chris just mentioned apps. Who should develop the apps?
Well,
The manufacturer or the integrator?
So this is an interesting one, and I think we're seeing a couple different trends in that. So if you look at somebody like Control4, for instance, I don't know if they're big over there, but they're big over here as especially in the residential space. Control4 just hired the guy who was the UX developer for Alexa.
Okay.
So you have manufacturers that are looking out there and going, hey, what was one of the biggest disruptions in control? Oh, Amazon, Echo, that's kind of making some waves. Some people have heard of that. There are a lot of people who disagree or agree with what voice is going to do. But instead of just saying, hey, we're going to go out and create a voice app for Control4, we're going to go out and get the guy who sat in the room and determined that was a good idea. And we're going to bring him in here to look at what we're doing and see if there's some innovation to be done in UX and app development here on our side. So I think you're seeing it that way. I honestly think if you're an integrator and you're not investing in people, I was at a national summit this week. I was talking to a guy, and what he is doing is he's going to school for UX and app development as a programmer. So he's getting out of his, Crestron, Extron classes, and he's going out and he's learning how to do app development. And, they want to be able to create within the company this ecosystem. Now you can imagine how valuable that is if it works. Customers get used to something that you developed a proprietary GUI and system for and love it. You're going to be their best friend, and it's going to be hard to kick you out, because if they bring anybody else in, they're not going to have that same overlay anymore. And, I used to make this fight on the control system thing. I think this is where we add value as an industry. So I think as an integrator, you can do that. For people that want something that's more across the board between integrators, you have to lean on a manufacturer to do some of that. But it's one of those differentiators that if you're not doing it, you're kind of going to be stuck, I think, in the past. So
Brilliant, Mark. Well, should we wrap it up there?
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. It's been a real pleasure to be here. My name's Jason Ward. He's been Chris Neto. He's been Mark Coxon. I'm Jason Ward, at JP Ward on Twitter, at InvolveVC on Twitter. Hit the subscribe button, whichever corner of the screen that one's in. I look forward to working with you guys again. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.